Hello again to another Agakala Reacts. Today we'll be watching BREXIT Not for EU Labels Causing Concerns from a Different Bias by Philip Morehouse, I believe. And I watch his videos from time to time in regards of Brexit because I just find it interesting. And because basically I wouldn't be where I am right now, as in Ireland, if not European Union. So that's it. So I can't really understand why people in UK were voting against the European Union, voting for leaving European Union. And I'm guessing the man that we'll be watching now, he can't understand it either and often makes fun out of the people, and sometimes it's funny. So let's just watch and let's just go.
Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the not for EU labels on foods that started to be noticed across the UK. As I suggested it would, not necessarily for the right reasons, causing no small measure of misunderstanding in fact. Problem for the Tories is that the misunderstandings are making Brexit seem even worse, and it's entirely the fault of the government for not explaining it to the public. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So, as of the start of this month, the red and green lanes were set up between Britain and Northern Ireland, basically because we left the single market customs union, particularly in this case the single market, with the intention of diverging our standards with the EU. And because there must not be any physical border infrastructure within the island of Ireland, Boris Johnson agreed to a trade border inside the UK between Britain and Northern Ireland. This meant that any goods being exported from Britain to Northern Ireland would have to face import controls just the same as if they were passing directly into the EU, which means the more we diverge, the more annoying those checks have to be. And this is because there can be no further controls preventing those goods passing into the Republic of Ireland and therefore the single market. But, complained the Brexiteers, who agreed to all this, there's no need for these controls if the goods are being sold in shops in Northern Ireland. If they're not going to be sold into the single market, why do we need all this faff? But how do you know they're only going to be sold in Northern Ireland? So after years of petulance from Boris Johnson and David Frost, Rishi Sunak finally agreed the only realistic solution: red and green lanes, goods that are to be sold only in Northern Ireland and can be verified as such, have labelling make it clear they are not for sale in the EU, can pass from Britain to Northern Ireland via the green lane, where the checks are drastically lessened to make trade quicker and easier. But people have noticed these labels in British stores as well and are jumping to an obvious, although incorrect, conclusion.
Obviously.
I'm seeing a number of Twitter posts, for example, from people who are assuming that the foods have this label because they do not meet the EU standards.
Oh, like that?
Now, the
No.
assumption is that this is potentially less safe or of lower quality.
Okay.
Now,
That's
it's
not
not
where I
actually
was thinking to be a
Or
gold
rather,
bar.
it's not necessarily true. This labelling is purely to allow for lower hassle export to Northern Ireland. So why do we need these labels on products for Britain? Well, technically we don't. It's about cost. If you make a particular product, like a ready meal in this case, and you'll be selling some of it in Britain and some of it in Northern Ireland, it's the same product, you're perfectly free to create two production lines, one with the not for EU label.
Yeah, but that's going to
for
cost
sale
more
in
money,
Northern
and that's
Ireland,
then
or
probably
one,
going to cost more.
without that, for sale in Britain. But that is more expensive, less efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Much more cost effective to use the same labelling for both markets. This is why we have the not for EU labels on a lot of food products in Britain now. It's simply lines which are also produced for the Northern Ireland market, and where the producer can't be asked with the extra hassle involved in going through the red lane, which you'd only want to do if you're actually exporting to the Republic of Ireland. Actually, even then you wouldn't want to do it, but there's no choice since we left the single market, is there? But although this label is not a sign that the food is of lower quality, you can see why people would think that.
I mean,
It's
I
not a
wouldn't,
stupid
but
conclusion to jump to. It's actually the obvious conclusion. I mean, everyone knows that the EU have high standards. Despite what the Tories claimed, everyone also knows that
okay, but is it though like what UK started the EU with the other countries in 60, 70 years ago? So obviously all those standards that they are in UK are pretty much probably in the same level than their EU standards are. It's not. I don't didn't hear anything about the UK lowering any standards. Mind, I'm not in the UK, so I don't know. Really, maybe they did quietly just lower down the standards of food, but I don't think so. That wouldn't make any sense. So
We have been moving to lower hours, and the government made absolutely no attempt to push a public information campaign to explain what the new labelling actually means. Possibly because even if it were to be explained to people,
they wouldn't believe
it
it.
still doesn't paint Brexit in a positive light.
Yeah.
It's still an example of creating trade friction, and for what? The government obviously decided it was better to hope that most people just didn't notice the label, or maybe they even imagined that Leave supporters think the label is somehow positive, that not for EU means, oh, the EU aren't allowed, it's ours, rather than the EU will not permit its sale.
Actually, that's what I was thinking people were going for.
What their thinking behind the lack of public messaging was. Perhaps there was no thinking. Perhaps they didn't even ask the question as to whether they should explain to people or not. I don't know. What I do know is that I am not in the least bit surprised that people would associate these labels with lower quality. I said as much at the time that this is what would happen, because it is, after all, a perfectly natural conclusion to draw. It's also a conclusion that will make people think Brexit, think of Brexit even more negatively. As such, although I'm happy to point out what it really means, it's not the worst news in the world if my message doesn't actually reach enough people to dispel the misconception. But there we are, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships, and until next time, I'll see you later.
That was kind of interesting. Well, I guess my mind just doesn't think right, because it doesn't work right, because I was thinking that, ooh, this is ours. Like, I was thinking more in the regards of hearing all about shortages in UK, and basically that, oh, this is not for EU because we don't have enough for our market. I was kind of thinking that way too. So, I don't know. Like, really, people were thinking because that the lower standards, so they wouldn't pass the EU standards or something. I really don't understand why would people think that. But then I couldn't understand that people voted to leave EU in UK back in 2016. So yeah, I don't understand those people. So obviously I'm not on the same par that some people are, I guess, or maybe they are. I don't know what to say. Anyway, that was interesting. Like I was saying, it went not where I was thinking it would, but I already explained it myself. So thank you very much for watching, and I see you tomorrow. Bye.